Hi folks, I'm Tim Hollo, the Greens candidate for the seat of Canberra, and thank you to the AMA's ACT branch for your questions about our proposals to act on the climate crisis and, of course, the climate impact on our health. So the Greens have obviously a very broad suite of policies on the climate crisis. It's my number one priority. I've spent 20 years already, my entire adult life basically, focused on getting the strongest action that we can on the climate crisis, and I'm delighted that the Greens platform this time goes very deep into a whole range of issues that we need to do. We are proposing that, of course, we need to replace all fossil fuels with renewables in Australia by the end of this decade. The Greens have a target in line with the science, the only target in line with the climate science, to reduce Australia's emissions by 75% by 2030, to get to net zero by 2035, and then come down after that and start drawing carbon down out of the atmosphere. 100% renewable electricity by 2030 through supporting things like renewable energy zones, as well as, of course, the important thing of setting out a schedule to shut down every coal-fired power station in this country. Part of that shutting down of the fossil fuel sector, of course, is a just transition strategy that we need. And we believe that once we can get the community on board with a just transition strategy, with our proposal for a $19 billion policy for a job-for-job guarantee of every worker coming out of the fossil fuel industry, ensuring that they can have a subsidised job in the next industry for a decade, as well as community planning for what they want invested in their community, then we can get the community on board and make that transformation happen really, really fast. We also want to see, of course, a shift from internal combustion engine cars to more investment in not just electric vehicles, but also public transport, mass transit, and active travel from the Commonwealth Government, and protecting our natural ecosystems for their own sake, of course, but also for the carbon that they store and that they draw down. And a crucial part of that is handing control of land management back to First Nations people who know how to manage this land for its health. So a whole big broad suite of policies there to really get us on track for zero emissions by 2035 and negative emissions beyond that. A crucial first step, though, which I think is often missed in climate policy, is that I think one of the underpinning policies that we need is to ban donations to the political parties from fossil fuel corporations. The reason we're not getting this action is because we have a party of government which acts essentially as a wholly owned subsidiary of the fossil fuel industry, and a party of opposition which too often is too craven not to do what their donors want. So we need to ban political donations from the fossil fuel industry in order to get all of these policies. In terms of the impacts of climate change on people's health and the healthcare system, the Greens have that front and centre. We want to ensure that we're preparing our communities for the impacts of heat, of fire, of flood, of spreading diseases. We want to ensure that the government is an insurer of last resort for all of these communities. We want to properly fund our public health system and our primary health system so that it's ready for these kinds of impacts. And we want to start shifting our infrastructure, building infrastructure that is climate ready. And that's, of course, roads and the transport system, but it's also office buildings, commercial buildings, and residential buildings. So we have a policy to support the upgrading of infrastructure so that it is climate ready and able to actually help us survive and manage our communities well as the climate changes. Of course, this is going to require a massive investment from government over the decade and more ahead as we start to prepare for change as it comes through. And that again is why we need to get big money out of politics so that we can ensure that government can tax the wealth in this country, tax the fossil fuel corporations, so that they can pay for the damage that they are doing as they are on their way out and transitioning to new industries, so that we can make these investments properly as a nation in our homes, in our businesses, in our hospitals and schools to make them climate ready. And of course, as we transform to a clean energy economy as fast as possible. So I hope that's been a useful rundown of our policies. Thank you for making this your priority at this election campaign. It's absolutely my priority and the Greens' priority, and I look forward to working with you.